And welcome back to KXVS Sports Night. Dustin, Brakebill, Pierce, Joey, and Jacob, and now joining us on the KXVS hotline, the one and only Thomas Lawrence from the Stockton Record. Good evening, Thomas.
Hey guys, thanks for having me on. Happy to be on the new station.
Thanks again. We haven't talked to you in a while.
I know.
We want to start, though, with the breaking news before we get to the high school football. Today, the Cal League subtracts 2 teams, and that kind of has the news with the Stockton Ports. What do you think of this move by the Cal League?
You feel bad for Bakersfield. I know there's a lot of sports fans there. I just think, I don't know what it takes to get a new stadium, but from what I've heard where their field is situated, it's kind of rough, and I think it's like right into the sun in one of the hottest places in the state, so they can't really start games till near 8 o'clock a lot of the times when they're home in the summertime, and I know they've had problems with the field down in Adelanto as well. So, it's a bummer. It's interesting because I think they're adding just 2 single-A teams to the Carolina League now. So we'll see how that one-division format goes. I don't know if it's going to mean more travel for the Ports or what it means. I think the Ports have pretty average attendance, but just their ballpark situation is just much better. It's a bummer, but it's just a fact of life. You gotta be smart about where you put stadiums.
Yeah, Bakersfield is one of the hottest places in California. Now moving on to high school football. It starts on Friday night. Are you excited for this? And I know you've been working hard about this, and your preview comes out this Wednesday.
Yeah, our preview comes out as part of the record on Wednesday. It's 24 pages. We have some excellent design work, so we're really, really pumped about it. It's a little bit longer than last year, too. Good photos and that kind of thing. It's nice, it's once you even just get out to practices and scrimmage and that kind of thing, it reminds you why, you love covering football so much. And it's fun to kind of sit back in the summertime and write some different kinds of features and take a step back. But I think a lot of sports reporters are probably like me, where you don't like being cooped up in an office. I understand that's 80% of jobs in this country, but I always look forward to later in the summer when you finally get back out there a little more.
Okay, let's talk about some of these teams. What's the team in the area you look forward to think breakout season for one of these high school teams?
Breakout team is a good question. That's definitely a tougher one than best team. I think you have to look for breakout team. You got to look at the Valley Oak League, the teams that aren't in that top 4, the kind of old boys club. I mean, you got 27 section championships combined between Central Catholic, Oakdale, and Manteca. Sierra had one in a lower division last year. But Weston Ranch is really good on both of their offensive and defensive lines. Their running back, Brian Bowen, I saw him at the scrimmage at Lincoln on Saturday. Looks very strong. I think if they can improve their passing game a little bit, that they could be a 6-win team, maybe make it into the playoffs. And they're a small enough school that they'd probably be in Division 4 if they did that. We saw last year with Sierra, if you get into the right division, you can go a long way these days. So I'd look for them and for Lathrop, which just had its first winning season last year, to make some noise. Not chase league titles yet. They're not quite there, but there's more parity in the BOL, which is pretty rare considering how powerful that league is year after year.
Yeah, the Valley Oak League, powerful, and it's fun to watch down there. Team that you think will likely... let's actually start with the previews for what you think is going to happen let's go to TCAL first.
Well, the TCAL, just because of how close they've been the last 2 years, how many guys they returned, St. Mary's is the inherent favorite. It's kind of who's going to be number 2. I would venture that Lincoln's probably going to be number 2, just ahead of Tracy. They just have more guys back, and their offense is really experienced, and now they're doing their air raid thing under first-year coach Anthony Martinez. They call it the Code Red. I think that's a thing this year. You have to make up nicknames for your new offense, because Lincoln is Code Red and Edison is the E-Raid. No one can just be the Air Raid anymore. I think it's probably Cal's fault for being the Bear Raid. I'm going to blame it on Sonny Dykes or Jeff Tedford. I don't know. It's one of those guys.
Sonny Dykes.
Probably Sonny, because that's his trademark thing, yeah. So I blame it on him and Jared Goff. But I like Lincoln there as number 2, and I think that's the most intriguing game in league play is that in Week 9, second to last week of the season, you'll see Lincoln visit Tracy. It could be playoff bids at stake there. It could be second place at stake. So that'll be interesting to watch, kind of a subplot that I think might not get enough attention.
Let's go to the SJAA.
It is impossible to know what's going to happen there. I think last year, Stagg and McNair were so good, or I guess so dynamic is probably a better word on offense, that you kind of figured they'd do 1 and 2 one way or another, and sure enough they were. Stagg a little bit more complete, won the head-to-head, so they won the league. This year it's just hard to tell. I predicted Stagg, and I just shot some preview videos with the Black Hat football, Rich Estrada, a couple hours ago. And I think Stagg is kind of inherently, I mean, Don Norton's in his 12th year coaching there. Their quarterback has some experience. He played a little bit in the playoffs, Favela, and then Cottrell Haywood plays wide receiver and defensive back. He's probably the best two-way player, that kind of guy in the area. You don't see that a lot anymore. So I'd like them, but, you got Booker Guyton back at Edison, Latif Grima-Chavez, both really good offensive-minded coaches, but which offense wins that league? Nobody, for the last 2 years, has been able to make defensive stops. It just doesn't really happen in this league, at least not right now. That probably won't change until more of the schools get freshman programs, and that's four-year players. That defense in football is not an easy thing. Neither is offense, but sometimes with offense, with speed and just being able to break players open when they don't work, you can still score some points. So I'd say Stagg there, but I wouldn't put more, and I'm not a gambling guy, but I wouldn't put more than like 50 cents on that, just because there's so much parity there. I have no idea.
Oh, let's go to your old stomping grounds in the Valley Oak League in Oakdale. They were great last year, but that league was probably the most dominant in this section. So talk about a little bit about that.
Well, I think Oakdale is going to suffer the most in terms of players that's graduated. Central Catholic lost a bunch too, but I mean, they're just, and this isn't even me on a diatribe, it's just literally in the rules that it's easier for private schools to reload. I mean, you see St. Mary's, some of its best players the last few years from Tracy. When you don't have the same kind of limitations, it's easier to avoid those in-between seasons where you struggle to make the playoffs. I'm not saying it won't happen. It might happen occasionally for a Central Catholic or a St. Mary's, but probably not. So I think they're the favorite as well. I think Manteca's kind of lurking. Obviously they have a great reputation. They win every year. I mean, the last 2 years they've won 9 games, made the section quarterfinals, and it's almost just, it's an underachievement because they've been so good the past 15 years or so. I think I really do think they're lurking there. They got a lot of guys who are juniors but already have experience. They got a returning quarterback who their coach Eric Reese says has maybe the best arm of the ball. Comes out of his hand unlike anyone he's seen there, which is exciting, but you still kind of wait and see. They say the kind of similar kind of thing about Jay Cutler. I don't know about you, but I never want him quarterback my team. Now, Manteca's quarterback, Gino Cantiati, I don't think has those problems. Seems like a good, sharp kid, a good leader, so he's not a Cutler. But my point is that arm strength only goes so far, so you kind of got to wait and see what he does with the full season.
And final league, and then we'll get to some players that we should watch out for in the Friday night schedule. The Motherlode League, you guys had a nice story about the Motherlode League in the sports section today, and also Mild Stomping Grounds Calaveras. Talk a little bit about that league.
Well, another league where the perennial power lost a bunch of players through graduation kind of makes things interesting with parity. Sonora, a team which multiple coaches and programs in the Motherlode League don't want there. They think they're just a little too much VOL, which is, and I think it makes sense geographically for Sonora to be there at least. And I don't know. I'd have to go with them or Calaveras this year. I think Calaveras is going to miss linemen, but talking to their coach, Jason Weatherby, they run the same thing all the way up and down the program, so usually they learn pretty quickly. They have that same kind of power and fly running scheme. And with them, I think the big difference is they have 2,000-yard caliber running backs in Anthony Gian Gregorio, who did it last year, and then Noah Cruz, who had to sit out half the year with the double transfer rule. But once he was there, he was the featured guy. So you could see both of them push 1,000 yards, and they could kind of just do it via matchup, depending on who they're playing, and that's kind of a nice luxury to have.
We're talking to Thomas Lawrence on KXVS Sports tonight. By the way, Jason Weatherby was my agriculture teacher in high school. But getting back to football,
that's the most important detail of this interview.
It is.
So people want to know, Rosillo and SVP. People want to, or SVP and Rosillo. People want to know about your private life. It's true.
It is. I love that show, by the way. Getting back to football now, you talked about 3 coaches in Stockton. Talk about which coach you think might have the breakout year out of his new place, or his new job, basically.
That's a good question. I think, given the parity in the league and some of the offensive players he has, I would say Booker Guyton at Edison. There's just the most room there to win a league title. I think the best potential for what they could do against really good teams and beyond is Lincoln. Anthony Martinez. He's an interesting guy. He's an IT director for Lincoln Unified, which you don't necessarily see a lot with a football coach. But to me, that means kind of the Chip Kelly mindset, where he's got more of a mathematical, I don't want to say unemotional, maybe less emotional way of looking at things. And I think given his offensive pieces, that'll be fun to watch. And I think, for a team like that, or in a league where you have to compete with St. Mary's and just how good they are across most of the roster, you have to be inventive. And so maybe he's the right guy for them as they try to snap a 12-game losing streak against their rival.
Okay, most underrated player this year coming into high school football in the region?
Man, that's a good question. I should have done some studying before this. Most underrated player in the region. That's tough. I hate to go back to St. Mary's, but I think because of how developed their passing game is and how good their wide receivers are, it's going to leave some really good chances for their junior running back, Dustin, to do some damage. He kind of came into his own in the playoffs last year. He had a huge game against Stagg, and though he didn't have a ton of yards, he scored 4 touchdowns against both of them. With the help of his linemen, he kind of bullied those guys. So I would definitely look out for him. A lot of the other guys, they already kind of get some press and some headlines, that kind of thing. I think in general, it could be kind of the year of the quarterback in the area. You don't see a lot of experiences at that position, but at East Union, Sierra, Manteca, maybe Western Ranch, and then St. Mary's, Lincoln, Tracy, a couple of schools in the SJA too. You got some returning quarterbacks, so that's a very tough position to play, especially in high school. You see a lot of bad statistical nights for high school quarterbacks, but that could actually be on an uptick this season. I know that's vague, but it's an easier way for me to answer the question.
Okay, and a final high school question, then we'll get your thoughts on the Olympic basketball, and I'll ask you a 49er question to close out this interview. Which game on Friday night is the most underrated, and which game you think is going to be the best game?
I think I would say could be underrated or best. I kind of like to lump them. We should have a reporter out there for the record. Is West and Lathrop? That'll be interesting because West is coming up with playoff appearance. They lose their three-phase star, Malta Banty. Lathrop coming off its first winning season. It barely lost to West last year, and I think they're confident they could turn that and turn in an upper division win. So I would say that's pretty fascinating. I'll be covering the defending state champs, Sierra. They're going to Ripon. Ripon last year is kind of interesting. They beat Sierra by 2 touchdowns on the road. And Ripon was in Division 5 last year, which is actually a tougher playoff bracket than Division 4 because it's by enrollment. So sometimes it's just how it works out. In Division 5, Sonora was there as number 1 seed, and Ripon was number 3. And they lost their first-round game because it was against Bear River, who's a small school power from the Sacramento area who's been good forever. People around here may not know them as well, but they're not someone you want to play. So it's one of those where Ripon might be one of those teams that wants a little revenge, thinking, obviously Sierra earned what it got, but Ripon took it to them and had that first round playoff matchup. So if the new coach Chris Musselman, if he needs a little motivating factor besides just the opening game, is that.
Okay, now to the Olympics. What do you think of what Team USA did? Coach K goes out a winner, as always. He only lost one game his whole career as the head coach of the Olympics. And then Carmelo Anthony hangs it up. Your thoughts on what Team USA did in the Rio 2016 games?
It's impressive. It's distinctively, though I know Dr. Naismith was Canadian, it's distinctively our game. So it's kind of, to me personally, the shine kind of went away from it once I think we got the bronze or the silver or something in 2000 or 2004. I think once they rebounded and got the gold after that, it's just kind of commonplace again. I think it is impressive how good Anthony is in international play, but I hate his argument and a couple of people here and there argument that it creates a whole other legacy for his career. I'm sorry, but Olympic basketball is something you do in between playing in the NBA. That's hundreds of games, playoff series. And he hasn't been that great when he needs to be in the NBA. Now, he could have had some better help. He's played on the Nuggets and the Knicks, so it's not all his fault. It's partially where he drafted and where the chips fall. But I'm impressed with him as an Olympian, but I don't know, it doesn't really change my thoughts as a basketball fan about Melo. Yeah,
I'm the same way. And the final question, are you behind this Christian Ponder movement in San Francisco now?
I don't know if that's a movement. I once went to a game where I think Chris Winkie was a quarterback, and they were chanting for Sean Hill. That was back in the dark ages before that. Well, the old dark ages before the Harbaugh era. Now we're in the new dark ages. So, I don't know. He made one good play against Denver's third string, so that starts a movement, and I don't know what to tell you.
Thomas,
Two good plays. Sorry, 3 for a touchdown. He ran for one. So obviously he's the second coming of Brady.
He was painting his house on Wednesday, and then they called him. So anything can happen now.
That is impressive. I'll give it to him. I'm happy for him.
Miss what is it? Miss Samantha Ponder, or what everybody calls him on the internet. I always forget what they call him. Tom.
I don't know.
Thomas, thank you as always. Have fun Friday night. Now we'll recap next Monday what happened on Friday night.
Thanks, Dustin. Have a good one, guys.
That's Thomas Lawrence from the Stockton Record. Hey, guys, when we come back, what do you guys want to talk about? Pierce, want to talk wrestling? Want to talk what's going on?
Let's talk your Wired.
Oh, Wired? I know. Come on, dude.
The Weird and Wired.
I just got back. I was hungry. I didn't eat yet. Okay, you know how I get emotional when I don't eat.
It's okay. I know you make a lot of typos at times, and I forgive it. I forgive it because you are beautiful. Beautiful people.
I am beautiful.
Forgiven more often.
I know.
Than us regular
I'm like
people,
Eva Marie and Nikki Bella.
You're Eva Marie, and I'm Nia Jax.
Ooh, yeah. That's not.
No. You're Eva Marie, and I'm Rhino.
Yeah. That's Pierce. That's Joey, and I think that's Jacob, who's E6 tonight or whatever. And you're not shortstop.
And I think that might be Jacob.
Now I don't know what that guy is. Back after this on KXVS Sports Tonight. I'm Dustin, and we'll talk Wired sports stories of the day.
Some really weird Wired sports stories.